Look closely at Michelangelo's David. The marble itself is completely motionless, yet as an observer, you immediately register tension, concentration, and readiness. A physical object with zero actual motion is transmitting highly dynamic concepts. This phenomenon scales up. When expression expands from a single statue to an architectural environment, like the Longmen Grottos in China, we are looking at roughly 100,000 figures carved into a limestone cliff face. We traditionally study this progression as a history of artistic technique, how humans learn to manipulate stone with increasing precision. But the physical object is only one component of the expressive system. The history of sculpture serves as a material archive of humanity's changing conceptual organization. It reveals where successive cultures located power, agency, and meaning, and how they structured those concepts in physical space. To map this out, we will scale our perspective upward. We begin with the isolated figure carved from a single block of marble and expand all the way out to multi-generational temple complexes spanning entire mountainsides. By following this trajectory, we observe how human beings use static stone as a persistent external memory system, a technology for stabilizing and accumulating collective cognition. We start at the first level, the isolated figure. This classical marble group, Laocoon and his sons, demonstrates what we call latent motion. The stone contains no physical kinetic energy, but it encodes directional information. We define this mathematically. Latent motion is a function of 4 variables: gesture, muscular tension, directionality, and spatial relations. The twisted torsos and stretched limbs force your brain to compute an action that is not actually happening. You process this through perceptual zooming. Your attention moves from a facial expression to a contracted muscle to the entire struggling body. This movement between physical details translates directly into movement between organizational levels. You reconstruct the concept of human struggle from the arrangement of the parts. At the scale of the individual figure, a static spatial organization serves as a stabilized container. It holds the potential for perceptually reconstructed motion, waiting for a viewer's mind to activate it. Now we scale up to level 2, the network. We must ask what happens to that conceptual meaning when one statue becomes 1,000. Here, inside a cave at Yungong, a central Buddha is surrounded by bodhisattvas, disciples, and celestial beings. The meaning of the ensemble does not equal the simple sum of its individual parts. We are looking at relational emergence. A Buddha by itself represents sacred presence, but placed within this specific hierarchy, the meaning is distributed across a network of forms. No single figure contains the total concept. The concept lives in the spaces and relations between them. The sculptural ensemble introduces a higher-order structure. Meaning is no longer an isolated event. It is a function of a coordinated field. This brings us to level 3, narrative and navigation. When multiple figures are arranged in a specific sequence, like this horizontal bas-relief gallery at Angkor Wat, static stone begins to encode narrative time. All the scenes are physically present simultaneously, but through sequential perception, you read a before, an event, and a consequence. The conceptual motion no longer exists only inside one figure. It travels sequentially between scenes. Architecture then adds physical motion to the equation. At monument complexes like Borobudur, the viewer is forced to physically navigate the space to unfold the organization. You do not simply stand and look at the concept. You bodily enter it, walk through it, and climb its hierarchies. Your visual sequence and physical movement are integrated directly into the artwork's design. Architecture converts a sculptural environment into a 3-dimensional, traversable, conceptual trajectory. Some conceptual environments are too massive for one mind to design. At the Longmen Grottos, carving continued across entire dynasties. A single cave sculptural work could span roughly 150 years, far outlasting the biological lifespan of any initial artist. This requires cumulative creativity. An architect or master sculptor produces an initial structure and dies. The next generation inherits that partially completed organization, adds their contemporary conceptual layer, and passes it on. The artifact itself acts as the continuity carrier. To prevent this accumulation from devolving into chaotic noise, the system relies on an organizational attractor, like Buddhist cosmology or a sacred narrative. This shared framework maintains the core identity of the site while permitting individual variation over decades of work. The monument operates as an external cultural memory system, allowing conceptual organization to persist and iterate long after its original creators disappear. The monument itself participates in the creation of its own meaning by constraining and stimulating future contributors. We have traced a clear organizational extension. The individual figure nests within a group. The group becomes a scene. The scene builds a narrative. Narrative integrates into architecture. Architecture anchors a tradition, and traditions accumulate into a civilization. At each expansion, the earlier level remains present, but becomes a unit within a larger field. The unit of analysis shifts from the neural mechanisms inside one individual brain to the distributed interactions of a massive cultural network. This leads to a distinct conclusion. A civilization has the capacity to create an expressive organization whose total historical and relational depth was never simultaneously present inside any single human mind. These monuments provide physical spaces where historical cognition remains organized in stratified layers of stone. By looking closely at how we actualize concepts in matter, sculpture provides a direct, observable bridge. It shows us exactly how human cognition learned to externalize itself, survive the limits of a biological lifespan, and accumulate across generations.